there, welcome back to another episode of Leading Las Vegas. I'm Danielle Ford of DanielleFord.com, where visibility makes a difference. And today I'm here with Darren LaCroix. He is spectacular, you guys. I recently attended a workshop, a 2-day workshop that he put on all about storytelling and how you can use your story and translate that to speaking, to public speaking. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I was amazed by how easy it was for him to help me craft my story. And the whole time I was thinking, man, this translates to business, and I can see how this would work with social media and video. So I wanted to have Darren on to give you guys some insight about that. But first, let me introduce him. You are the World Championship speaker of, is it Toastmasters?
Correct, 2001.
That is amazing. So he's been doing it a long time. Can you give us a little bit of insight into how you got into speaking?
Sure. I used to own a Subway franchise, Subway sandwich shop, and it just was not going well. In fact, I had to get a day job in order to make sure I could pay my employees so I didn't literally go bankrupt.
Wow.
And I was at the lowest point in my life, and one of my buddies gave me this motivational tape of Brian Tracy, and he said, "What would you dare to dream if you knew you couldn't fail?" I was like, what? If I couldn't fail, I would be a comedian. Like, that would be the ultimate. Make people laugh and earn a living at that. That would be awesome. And then all of a sudden the doubting voice said, "But that's not you, Darren. You're not funny."
I'm not funny.
Like, oh, crap. Good point. But I was at such a low point in my life that I said, what if? What if I did? So it wasn't this big dream I was going to become a comedian. It was I didn't want to live with the regret of wondering, what if? What if I could have? So I decided, I'm going to do this once, but I'm going to get advice. I'm going to go to people who are the best. So I went to a little comedy club in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I asked the comedian after the show, I said, "Hi, my name is Darren. I want to try this. What do I need to do?" And he asked me a question. He said, "Are you funny?" I said, "No." He said, "Good." I'm like, "Good? What do you mean good?" And he went on to explain that people who are naturally funny, you know, those natural comedians, those natural life of the party, class clown. He said those people, even if they want to be a comedian, they would still have to learn the structure of comedy. He said, but anyone, if you're willing to bomb, can learn this.
Interesting.
And I was like, he gave me hope. I was like, cool. So then he said, number one, you need to go get the book. I'm like, book? There's a book about stand-up comedy? Well, of course, there's books about everything, but I didn't think that way. Right. And he said, number two, you need to go to an open mic night and watch other people just starting out. Because when you tell people you want to be a comedian, my family was comparing me to Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
You know, someone thinking about it to someone at the top of their profession. It's not fair, but it's human nature. Mm-hmm. And so I went on Sunday night, a little comedy club called Stitches right outside of Fenway Park. And I watched people. And Danielle, I know we can be open and honest here. They sucked. And immediately I thought, I could do that. Like, that inspired me. And so I went to I got the book, I read the book. I went to Stitches every Sunday night to get re-inspired. And it was April 26, 1992. It was horrible, like horrible. And there was one moment where I was telling this one joke about my hometown. And I said it was about this rocket that took off in my hometown. It's where modern rocketry started, was in my hometown. I was just making light of that. I said the rocket took off and it went vertically. But I did horizontal with my arm. Oh. And I said one thing. I did the exact opposite. I just realized in that moment what I did, and I just reacted. I said, "Ah, shit." And all of a sudden everybody laughed. I'm like, why are you laughing? That's not where you're supposed to laugh. And when I walked off stage, the comedian that night put his arm around my shoulder, said, "Don't worry, man, it's just your first time." And I remember thinking, don't worry, it's just my first time. Did you see what I did? I got a laugh. No one told me I could do that.
Like, that's a win.
And I latched onto that. I got every book I could. I get every comedy class that I could take. In fact, Las Vegas headliner Vinny Favorito was the guy who introduced me that very first night back in Stitches.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was a long time ago, and I just dove in. And then when I found Vinny taught me stage time. He said, any day that you don't get on stage is a day that you don't grow.
I believe that.
I thought you had to be good every time you went up. He's like, no. Every day you don't go up, you're not good. So when we're talking about storytelling, you don't have to be a great storyteller, but you have to get the book. You have to be eager. You have to want to learn. Like, that's one of the things that impresses me about you is like, you're like behind the scenes, you're a geek. You know what you're doing. I was so impressed how brilliant you are, but you're still a sponge and you're still eager to learn. So for anyone wanting to tell their business story or stories on social media, when you learn the elements, then you bring your own voice and your own enthusiasm to it. It's like it becomes magical and so engaging.
I didn't realize that because I am a nerd, and there's a formula for everything. But
Was
it's
I not
like,
supposed to say that? Sorry.
no, that's okay. That's okay. It's not a secret unless it's someone's maybe first opinion of me. I'm a total tech nerd, but there's a formula for everything, and then you have to learn that, and then you have to give it your own spin.
Exactly.
And I love how you teach that. And did you bring a clip? You kind of teased me with some sort of clip I've never seen before.
So in 2001, I outspoke 25,000 contestants to become the world champion of public speaking because of the stories and my coach. So when I tell that or people see that and they're beginning speakers, they're like, well, I could never do that. I'm like, but you don't understand where I started.
Right.
So I always show this video clip, which actually came from that very first night at Stitches. Now, before we show the clip, let me get two things out of the way right up front. Number one, this was 1992.
Okay.
A lot has changed. And number two, you are the fashionista. Like, I understand, ladies watching.
Fashion changed.
Parachute pants are no longer in fashion.
I'm really
but
excited
back then
about
they
this.
were cool.
Okay, I'm really excited about this. Let's see it.
Town in New England takes one little small historical fact, makes it the greatest event in the world. Sorry for my voice, like fluctuating a little bit. But a lot of towns are like this. I was doing some research, like places like Lexington, you know, the first revolutionary skirmish happened there. What was his name? I can't even think of his name. Obviously, he was real famous. Eli Whitney was in Westboro, you know, born in Westboro. I was doing some research and I discovered that the first dentist to use ether actually happened in Charlton, Massachusetts. And an interesting thing about this was he actually experimented.
That is hilarious. I'm sorry.
That is painful.
It's hilarious and it's amazing. And I think every speaker or potential speaker should look at that. That, first of all, the way you are holding your body and your confidence and the way the you said.
Oh my goodness.
So different than him on stage now. And I've seen him on stage.
My voice was like fluctuating. It was like I was Peter Brady.
Yeah, you're like, I do the same thing with video. I used to be an esthetician. And I was really excited one time, this is before I got into video, because the news came to the studio and they wanted to interview someone about a summertime wax. Okay. I need to find this clip. I've looked for it, but it's the best horrible on-camera interview ever because I got so afraid. As soon as the camera's in front of your face, you change, right? You change, you're like, I don't know what to do. And they asked me, describe this wax. And I said, oh, we have this really nice wax. And the thing I like about it is that when you put it on, it feels really nice. And then when you rip it off, it's just the skin, it feels really nice. I said nice 8 times in a 60-second interview. I know. And those are the ones, I'm so happy you shared that because that's what you have to look at when you're talking about Jerry Seinfeld. Let me see his first stage appearance, right?
There's a great documentary out called Comedian that anybody who wishes they were funnier or a presenter, storyteller, rent. It's probably on Netflix, Comedian. But what happened is after Jerry Seinfeld finished the series and the series ended, he went back into the comedy clubs and they documented him starting over again.
Awesome.
And a lot of people think, oh, it's easy for him. He's funny. Well, you watch him doing brand new material and a lot of it bombs. That's the process that most people don't see.
I love that. So I have learned the power of storytelling and how you can implement it to sell from stage or sell at the back of the room. And that's one of my things that I want to pursue is a lot more speaking. So I really appreciate the tips that you've given and everything I've learned from you so far. But can you give the viewers some ideas of how they can use their story and how it would translate into their business by sharing it on maybe social media or tidbits of it on Twitter or video, just however?
Absolutely.
Cool.
One of the biggest things that I learned from my coach, and we didn't even get into that too much when at the seminar you were at, but what I learned is dialogue is much more engaging than narration. Narration is what happened last week, last month, last year. Dialogue is bringing us to the moment. So, for example, in my championship speech, I tell this story about when I wanted to be a comedian. I went home to tell my parents. So the first version, before my coach got a hold of it, was, so I went home to tell my parents I wanted to be a comedian, and they were speechless. Okay? Blah, boring. That's narration, because that's telling us. To bring us to the moment, to hear the conversation makes it so much more engaging. So with my, Mark Brown was my coach, he changed it to, so I went home, Mom, Dad, I want to be a comedian. I was met by silence. So the dialogue, and it's the same exact story.
Right.
One's a narration and one's a dialogue. So the one thing that you could do for your storytelling. Two, something that you're really good at, just be transparent. Like, I didn't ever think I would show that clip that we showed. I actually took it to prove that I did stand up, because most of my high school friends are like, you're the shy kid. Like, they can't believe I ever tried it. So it was just proof. And then later on, I would tell the story of my first time on stage, but no one would believe me, because I'm comfortable and confident now. So when I show that, people then get it. And the idea is inspiration. And for you, like telling your business story, whether it's your story or a customer's story that you've helped, it's what problem are you helping solve? So it's almost like the diet, what's the before, what's the after, but in story format.
I love that. Instead of just being like, this person was struggling with this and then they lost a bunch of weight and they did this. It's like, show their pain, tell the words they were experiencing, and then the words after it was solved and how they felt. I love that.
And it's we call it, as you saw, we call it then, now, and how.
Yeah.
So what's the story of how you were back then, or how your customer was back then before they met you, if your business is the answer, and then something that represents where they are now. As we talked about the old scene from When Harry Met Sally, I'll have what she's having, like, because they want that. So if you tell us the then and you tell us the now, the intrinsic listener wants to know, how did that happen? And your business is the answer to that. Like, you don't have to get into the details. We just want to see the before and after picture,
proof,
but in story format. And then that gets us engaged, intrigued. Well, how did that happen? Because I could just go up there in front of emerging speakers and be the world champion, and they just kind of say, well, that's easy for you.
Right.
But when I show that video, it makes them literally uncross their arms.
They're like, I'm better than that now.
Exactly. But if I can't connect with them, I can't educate, entertain, or inspire. We must connect first.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. I am rethinking like all of my emails, and I'm like, how can I go edit them all and change it to be a story? Because I think that's going to be so much more powerful. Can you tell us where people can connect with you? I know you have Stage Time University is your core kind of program, and you can go there and you can get some freebies and you can learn about events that are coming up, but you're also on social media.
I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/stagetime, and my Twitter is @Darren LaCroix.
Awesome. Okay, and it should be in the video here. If not, then check out the blog post. There will be links to all of that stuff. Thank you again so much for being here. This is wonderful. Welcome. You guys, thank you for tuning in. This has been another episode of Leading Las Vegas. I'm Danielle Ford. This is Darren LaCroix, and we'll catch you again in another episode. See you later. If you loved this episode of Leading Las Vegas, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. You can also watch more episodes like this here or on leadinglasvegas.com.